Hi, I'm Deborah, and I'm a coach. I'm a life coach, and welcome to my longish lesson on recognizing value. And in this lesson, we're going to be learning about how to actually put together a vision statement. So what is a vision statement? A vision statement is whereby you actually are able to talk about who you are as a person, what your values are, and what it is that you want to achieve in your life, and getting ahead in your life with what you believe, what is important, and how you want to go ahead. So the purpose of this whole session and the tools I've got in the lessons is to actually assist you in identifying what your values are and to develop a vision statement. And so what are your core values and what are they? Why are they important? So core values are part of what really makes us who we are. And this means that for each one of us, we've got that special part of us that makes us who we are. If, for example, maybe I would believe that maybe lizards are something that's creepy to me, or it could be a chameleon. It could be because of so many other things that could have happened. Or I believe that if I'm walking down the street, I should say hello to anybody else who's older than me. It could be because somewhere in there, my values were engraved in me. So you find that your values are those things that make you who you are, and only you can be that individual. That's when you are in yourself in that vulnerable situation, you can be the only person who can identify what your values are. So they highlight what we stand for. If some people, you find that some people get really passionate about being out there, and if there's a woman who's been abused, they get really passionate about that. They can actually, excuse me about that, they can actually really go like, oh geez, how can they, and they would get out of their way to really almost fight for it. So these are the different things, and they can actually represent our unique individual essence, which means that each one of us, in our uniqueness, there are those things that to me they could be very important, but they might not be of the same importance to you. And also you find that they also guide our behavior. So many people will wonder, like, why is that person behaving the way they are? Maybe if you put me in a situation whereby it's too noisy, I might not like it, because to me maybe noisy and shouting means somebody's angry, but to somebody else maybe that can actually just mean that it's nothing. It is the way they speak, it's the way they operate. So these are actually the things that guide our behavior. And you find that even maybe at times in workplaces, they might actually guide the way you treat others. So maybe for example, if for you being early for a meeting is very, very important to you, if somebody shows up late, it actually really does disturb you. Or if you're a person who you think, okay, people will wait for me anyway, you might behave differently when somebody else turns up late, or they are actually earlier than normal. So this is what guides us through so many different things. We can talk about this through relationships, through maintaining our relationship with our kids and everything else. So they guide our behavior, and it also provides us with a personal code of conduct. How do I operate in my world is also dependent on what I value as my core values. So I find that for some people, honest communication is a core value. If somebody lies to them, they might find that it's very, very difficult for them to actually believe them later, or to be able to have a close relationship to them. So all those things are core values that make each one of us who we are. So we move on to, when we honor these things, the values, we actually find that we are more fulfilled. And when we don't, we find that we are a bit disturbed, we're incongruent, and we are more likely to, escape into bad habits to feel a bit better. So what does that mean? It means that at times you find that that's when you find that child who gets to be a bit more like misbehaving. At times it's simply because they know their values, or this adult who has got values but they can't really express them because of so many different things. It could be in a relationship situation where they can't talk about how they feel, and the next thing they act out in another way. They could actually maybe be a bit quiet, they don't talk to you, or they behave weirdly, like maybe getting drunk every night and all those things. So all those things are some of the things that show that this person is not congruent with their own values. Their own values are being messed up, so they behave in a certain way just to try and actually portray that imbalance that's happening in their body. So it is very, very important to actually like follow on your core values to see what it is that makes you who you are, and managing to express it into the world. So in step 1, we're going to start on discovering what your core values are. So I would say, start off with a beginner's mind. Usually at times we think that we know the answer when you start off with it. Just go like, oh, okay, I know what it is all about, and not really putting a bit more of some time and some thought into it. So I usually try to actually put it as more like just approach it from an open point of view, an open book. What is it, that you are looking for, that you want to discover? As you open yourself up, write it down, and it gives you access to your inner truths. You look at it internally and say, what else? Just open up, dig in, and at times the more you dig into it, you find that you might be having some other things, questions and answers that are in your conscious mind that you've not known about the answers to. So this tool actually does help you to identify those things a bit further, and you create space for new insights and some revelations to emerge. So take some time to just look through the tool that's attached, look through it carefully and go through it, and you find that in there you might start discovering more of who you are than more of what you've always thought you have always been. So I found that just thinking about it carefully, and you find that you start going like, that is one thing I've actually thought about, but I have not mentioned it before. So another thing is it's creating your list of your personal values. Getting to a point whereby you actually writing those things down is very daunting, because at times it's actually you write it down and you go like, is this really what I want? Or geez, won't I look like I'm being a snob? Or won't I look like I'm being too harsh on myself? Or won't I look like I am just being too inconsiderate, and all those things? There's so many things that happen when you're actually going through your personal values, because at times you might not have been in touch with them yourself. You might not have actually given yourself a chance to recognize them, execute them, and produce them as, in a product at the end. So you find that it can be a bit daunting, it can be scary, but at times you might not have discovered them, or you might not be able to have revealed them in the past. So when you start your list, with just, you might find that some of your values are better than others. So usually if you like just chunk them out, as a whole group of values, and then you start picking up on the ones that really get to you straight away, you find that some of them are really more important. Like I might actually be passionate about, or don't kill the animals, the women who are being abused. I can talk about the hungry children. I could talk about maybe, fitness and wellness. I could be talking about maybe every writer should be recognized in the world and all those things. But then maybe if you get me to write my personal values down, you might find that maybe the abused woman would be the first person. Doesn't mean that I don't respect the abused men or and all those things, but maybe the abused woman is one person that actually it gets to me more. And those are some of the values I go like, okay, if this is the sign of this, I am very passionate about this. So when you start your list, also always remember to start it with, put them out there, and then you start picking out on which ones are actually more of what really stands out to you more. I find that, values communities get us to this part where you look at all these people who live in their community like this. All these people have got different values. And at times, a community, a society, a group of people have got values that hold them as a group. So values can come from different places. It can be a group of people. It could be the community you were brought up in. It could be a country you come from. It could be a continent you come from. And it is this world whereby, or things like churches, things like organizations, all those things eventually do form what your values are. And there are so many things that you can actually talk about. The huge list, you can talk of cheerfulness, cleanliness, clear-mindedness, cleverness, closeness, comfort, commitment, composure, conviction, everything. So there is a long list. So in the tools I've got attached, in there you can actually make a choice where you actually pick on the ones that actually jump out at you, and then you put them aside. And that's at times an easier way, a more guided way on how to select these things. Because at times if it's just a big open book, you're going like, what are you talking about? It's just this big thing. What values are you talking about? But if you've got them a bit more specific, it actually does help. So at times to actually help you uncover these, your own personal values, I've got the 3 processes you can try. At times you think of the peak experiences. So what are peak experiences? This is when, at that time, when you achieved this big thing that you really loved and you were on top of the world. What did it feel like? And in saying that, you're gonna, think about what was going on. What values were you honoring at that moment? I find that for myself, it could be at that time when I was still in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, when to me hard work is what I honored. To me, it meant that if I'm going to do my homework 2 days in advance and I study for my little exams and I really do revise my work, it meant that I was actually going to be able to get a result. So every time I got the result and I walk in there and get that prize for being number 1, I was excited about it. I was proud of being in that position, and I was actually proud to present that to my parents, because my parents always said, you've got to be number 1 or number 2, and that's it. Actually, it was more like number 1. You can't even be number 2. So in my head, I've always had that competitive mind that I can't be any other position. It's got to be the first position. So as much as it maybe just didn't continue till the end, in high school, but throughout the primary school years, when that competitive mind in me meant that I had to be in that position, it was very important. At times, I use that on the days when it's, when I'm not understanding what is it that I value. I remember that I do value the competition in me, the value that I can do anything as long as I put my mind to it. So always remember, just look at it and think, what was happening to you? What was going on? What values were you honoring in that moment? And also, how did you feel? Remember all those things and put everything down. And then we've gone on to suppressed values, which is the opposite direction. I find that suppressed values are very, very important in actually unblocking things that could be blocking us at all times. At times, you can find that you could have been in a situation whereby you were not able to freely express the way you felt. This could be maybe, let's say, you are scared. Like I've found myself in situations whereby I've moved from a different country into a different environment where I was really challenged in some situations. Maybe I've got a job that's maybe way bigger than me or something like that. This role is actually really challenging. And I am worried about already being in that position. And then you are faced with a challenge whereby you are faced with trying to have other imaginations to think, could it be because of something else? Could it be my skin color? Could it be my pronunciation of words? Could it be the way I speak? Could it be something else? So all those words, all those things can actually get you to a point whereby you have got to start suppressing some values to go like, who are you? So at times, you think of those things to go like, when were you afraid? When were you frustrated? When were you upset? What was going on? What exactly were you feeling? And then, how did you what were the values that were being suppressed? Maybe the values that were being suppressed is being able to speak up for myself, being able to say the way I felt without being scared of what can happen to me as a consequence of that. So I found that, the suppressed values at times end up making you think of so many things like, it includes things like, maybe if you believe that you're supposed to be having money, but somewhere along the way you could have been in a situation where maybe for religious purposes and all those things, or just general talking in the house where people talk about how money is evil, and then you get scared of actually having it. You're scared of actually charging for your services, and you find that somewhere in there you do not value what you really need to value to go like, I'm in a business, I'm supposed to be valuing this. So suppressed values are another way you can find that people might not really get to reach where they want to be or to have their values. So get in there and scratch into it and see what are some of the things that you end up suppressing because it is comfortable or it is better, it is more acceptable to be in that situation than in any other. And then we move on to the third one, which is the code of conduct. What must you have in your life? This comes in different ways. I found that in my life, I need to have the gym close to me. You can take me anywhere in the world, but if you don't place me close to a gym, somehow I start getting a bit restless. And I am not very good with isolation. I found that I just can't be isolated. I need human contact. So I get to really want to be out there where people are. And what are my basic needs, human needs that I must have? I think the comfort. I don't usually go camping because I'm scared of lizards, but I would have loved to be out there in the bush looking at the stars, but I am one person who needs the doors sealed and in a closed environment that is safe for me to feel safe. So how can you express yourself in a creative way? And that's another thing that's a big value for me. I love creating. If you can give me an executive job, you can give me whatever you can imagine. But if I'm not getting creative, it becomes a bit of a problem for me because I think that I just need to express myself in different ways. I like writing it down. So what are your things? What are some of the things that really get you excited when you actually create, when you express yourself out there? What is your creative way? Some people, it could be art, it could be dancing, it could be singing, it could be, like creating, knitting, doing some baskets, knitting shawls or scarves and all those things. So all that is part of some of the things you can actually look at and say, this is what I value. Having that knitted jumper for your child or for yourself or for your parents or whatever, those can be some of the things that really are of value to you. And it could be something like just being surrounded by beauty. I enjoy being out there in the morning, walking in and absorbing the green, beautiful park I've got around me. That is of great value to me. Just admiring nature, being in fresh air and knowing that I'm breathing in beautiful, nice, fresh air. That is of great importance to me. Some people prefer not to be anywhere close to nature, which is good. Some people prefer to be out in the desert, and that is something that could be of good health, of a beautiful place to them. Some people prefer a spotlessly clean place where like nothing, a piece of hair is on the table, they've got to move it off. All those things could be something that is of value to you, or just decorating your house in a beautiful way, having nice ornaments around the house, having nice pictures. I like a beautiful leather lounge couch. That's one thing I'll always have around my place. I love lounges. I enjoy having beautiful little pieces like the tables, trying to have something unique around it, and nice lampshades. That's just my thing. But then, you find that different people, and always I usually prefer to have a live plant around me. So what is it that you can think of that could be actually something that actually just identifies you and gives you those values to say, this is what I value, and if this is not around me, I actually find that it's a bit difficult for me to actually, live and thrive. Because if you do not value those things, if you don't put them together, you find that you start withering. You become a plant that's just going like floppy, because your core is not being watered. Your core is not actually being taken care of. So think of all those things. What are some of the things that excite you? When you go out there and you go hiking, you find that like if I go hiking, I'm excited when I'm actually going up the mountain. It's beautiful. All those things. A strong level of health and vitality. Like, is that what is important to you? Like what I was saying, if you take me away from a gym, I find that I struggle, because I believe that somewhere along the way, almost on a daily basis, or at least 5 times a week, I should have some intense exercise to keep my body functioning at the optimal level. But then, it all depends. People have got different needs. Some people don't even, they don't need to. It's all different people in different values. So look at all those things as well and think to yourself, what are some of the things that actually get you to have that fulfilling life? What are the values? What is it that actually you would say, no, if I don't have this, I am not a happy person. So putting those things together helps you identify yourself and be able to function around the world knowing yourself better. In step 4, we're going to highlight the central theme of each value group. So if you have a group of values that include things like honesty and transparency, integrity, candor, directness, and truth, select a word that best describes this group. So a word, it could be like just integrity is a central theme, because at times you find that some of them can be so huge, but if you just group them into smaller groups. So you can always keep some of the words in the group of the parentness or the primary value to be more consistent, but then you might actually you might need to use them again in step 6. So we move on to step 5. Determine your top personal values, core values. So this is now the hardest part, to go like, which ones are the hard? Just a few. We've got so many. You find that if you start the exercise, you can have so many to think about. So, what are some of the smaller ones? What are some of them, the ones you can put together? Here are some of the questions you could actually ask. What values is absolutely essential for your life? This is like, if this is not happening, I'm not going to function. So for me, it could be just respect and honesty. For me, that is important. If I can't respect you, or if you can't respect me, it feels like, a bit of that part might actually make it really complicated for me to function around you. And then what values represent your primary way of being in the world? So you might look at that as well to think, okay, if you're functioning in this world, what is it? Who are you as a person? Are you the person who is the fun person who's going to be excited about stuff? Are you the person who's going to be more like, really strict about things, just strict about the time? You want things to be done in a certain time, in a certain way. Are you the person who is really on about people respecting each other and values being respected? And are you on about the person who actually gives people options? And also, what values are essential to supporting your inner self? So these are the things that when you're quiet, when you're by yourself, who is this person? What are some of those things that actually get you to be settled, to be calm, to be you without being anxious and all those things? So that is some of the questions you can actually ask yourself. What are some of those things that can get you to support yourself, to support that inner being in you? And then we move on to the fact that after all those 5 things, you can realize that you can't be all things to all people. You are unique, you have certain strengths and weaknesses, and your values are what matters most to you. And this, I found that it comes as time goes on. I was, just a few years ago when I was younger, I would never have thought that one day I would walk into a room and be able to express who I am as a person. And it was more like all the time, what are they thinking about me? What's happening to me? And all those things. But then as years went by, I actually realized that I have to be respecting my own values. If this is not what I value and I do not agree with it, and if I don't talk about it, it means somewhere along the way it's going to catch up with me. So how many core values should you end up with? Too few or too many? Try to capture them and put them in groups, and this actually can form unique domains, dimensions, of your being. Too many, at times you might actually not be able to remember them, but so try to group them and put names to them. So while the number of core values differs from each person, usually try to have at least about 5 to 10 of them. And if you've got 5 to 10, then it makes it easier to actually remember and concentrate and want to actually be, in that space where you know where you are. And I find that actually really putting them out there as putting all the values in a numbering order, where you actually talk of saying, okay, number 1, I think this one is what is really, really important to me. In number 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in that order, you find that these are the things that drive you to be who you are. You will be able to establish more of your personal values and what you want to be through the process of elimination on, okay, yes, fine, I could be very passionate about maybe that the cats should have their milk every day. But at the same time, I'm really, really passionate about the fact that I should go to the gym and exercise. And people out there should also try to keep themselves healthy, because it's important for your own body and also your children and your children's children, so they'll be able to see you. So being responsible for your health could actually be something that is very important to you, because you know why you want to do that. So all those things could be so many things that you can actually be, listing down, putting them in that order of importance to you. That can help you with writing down a vision statement. So when you put it all together, a vision statement is when you put what are the main values you are, or you respect, to say, I am Deborah and I value this, that, and this is the way I operate in this world. So I'll give you examples at the bottom on what a core value is, and please use that, play around with them, and you find that you will be able to, you'll be so surprised at what you'll discover about yourself. And this helps you with operating in a world where you can be able to use that statement in a workplace, at home, in the gym, everywhere, to actually say, this is what I value. If these values are not met, I feel disappointed. I feel unease around things. So please use this tool, see how you go, and comment on the video below, put the comments below, so that I know how you felt when you actually did this. But I've found that it opened my eyes, it opened up who I really was, and I managed to get into the depth of a lot of things using this method. So catch you soon. I better wind off. It's almost 30 minutes, and I've been talking and talking for a long time. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll be able to catch up with you in the next lesson. Thank you.